I think there's a sense of false confidence that doing well in high school can impart when you're trying to do well in like first year of pre-med.
Really interesting you mentioned that actually, because my friend was telling me, I think like last week or so, like who you are in high school and the grades that you get in high school are by no means reflective of the person you're going to be like in uni.
Okay, so welcome to Subcut, the first episode where we've got a name for the podcast. I'm Justin. I used to be a doctor.
I'm Neil. I'm a fourth year med student next year.
So otherwise known as a pre-doctor. We're going to be talking today about some of the mistakes that people make in first year or getting into medicine and pre-med. And there's definitely a lot of them, right? What would you say is the biggest mistake that we see students making coming into the year?
I was about to ask you the same thing. Lack of preparation.
Lack of preparation, yeah. Like the level of lack of preparation for this podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you mean by lack of preparation? Because I certainly have ideas about why students are not prepared for it.
I think there's I think everyone says that it's really, really hard and it's challenging and stuff, but no one really knows what to expect out of first year properly. And so preparing themselves in terms of the mindset as well as the actual like skills that you need in terms of time management, stress management.
Yeah. So how do people normally prepare themselves?
I'd say most common thing is they'd literally just go through the lecture material straight off the bat. And they think that that's going to suffice them for the rest of the year.
Yeah, if that actually even.
Right, yeah.
And a lot of people, they're not even going through the lecture material. So why does that not work then? Why is that not enough?
The actual amount of time and like effort that you have to put in to learning the lecture content before it's ever been taught or anything like that is so great that the returns of that effort that you put in, it's not worth as much as you learning properly how to learn when it comes to the time.
Yeah,
as well.
Yeah, totally agree. Because the major issue, right, is that you're taught in high school that the ceiling is so low in high school that you think that it's enough. You think that you can just scrape by knowing the topics and studying the subjects and things.
We're both sick right now, so just
yeah. So excuse my sniffling. So we go through high school having it drilled into us like the bare minimum that's necessary. And I think we're by nature very energy efficient. We're always trying to do stuff that's the most energy efficient. Like we're not going to want to pour in heaps of effort and energy into something that we don't think is going to be effective. And so people that are coming in from high school, finishing year 13, they finish their exams, they're like, okay, look, I did pretty well. I did pretty well, first year. Yeah, it's hard, but how much harder could it be? But it's actually really a different ball game. It's like the kids' pool versus, like the actual adult kind of, division. And so it's not really enough to just have learned some of the content. It's not enough to have just learned some of the subject material. It just doesn't really cut it. Yeah. Especially if you don't know how to manage your time or manage your stress in a totally independent, fully, no one cares, right?
Right, yeah.
Like literally, of all the people that are out there, no one's going to give a shit about whether you go to your lectures or not. At the end of the day.
I still don't go to my lectures.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah.
You got lecture recordings which are much more efficient and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was thinking back to when I was in high school as well and how stressed I was in year 12 and 13. I just wanted to slap myself, now looking back, because it really, retrospectively, now that we're in uni and we see the real life and what life actually is, well, even that really, I've still got heaps more to learn and see.
The difference is that when you graduate, you just stop caring.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, there's just too much to stress about that you just stop caring.
But so I mean, our lives are so easy. First of all, in New Zealand. Second of all, in high school itself, everything's spoon-fed to us. Content is literally given, this is what you need to get excellence. This is what you need to get merit and stuff. And no one cares about you in university in that way. And that's a hard fact.
And I think the ceiling of achievement for getting a A star or an excellence is set really low. Like it sets a unrealistic standard of what true excellence is, because like
it shouldn't be easy to.
It shouldn't be that easy.
No.
And I mean, you know, there will be people that are sort of struggling with it, but actually they're mostly struggling because their study skills are just not up to par. But if the standard was set higher, a lot of these people would actually feel the need to actually increase their ability to study rather than just resorting on memorizing the buzzword and just like, you know, smashing it out.
Like we're taught in NCA, mention the key words.
Yeah.
Like,
and you get punished for not mentioning the key. You can have the best idea about whatever.
Yeah.
And you could have explained it perfectly and you could know the stuff. And I remember there was an internal that I sat in biology and for that entire internal, like I got excellence for everything except for this one particular thing that my teacher just happened to tell me not to do.
Right.
And I got achieved for that one aspect. So my whole thing got brought down to a merit because of that one thing. And I was like, okay, this is BS.
Right.
You know, because I clearly knew the stuff. And that's kind of how we're taught in NCA to do it. And it just doesn't represent life in pretty much any real way.
I'd say it's the shift. I feel like there are several shifts throughout your schooling years itself, like the shift from primary to intermediate, from intermediate to college, from I would not 10 to 11. I'd say more 11 to 12.
Maybe, yeah.
At least for NCA. I went through the NCA curriculum.
Yeah.
And then again from 13 to uni.
Yeah. But that jump is huge, like a huge jump. Yeah. And I think intermediate to, you know, entering into high school for the first time, that feels like a huge jump. It feels like a huge jump, but it's actually not really a huge jump. It's more of like a social huge jump in that you're usually going like to a bigger school or that you're meeting different types of people. And it feels kind of like more big boy type of mentality. But the reality is that you're still just like doing whatever is assigned to you. You're just following someone else's instruction to do it. Whereas going from high school into uni is a really different ballgame. All the kind of people that are having issues with just being self-motivated and being proactive and scheduling themselves and just managing themselves like an adult. Right. People that struggle to do that really fall behind. Yeah. And that gap
all really shows.
Yeah, it's shown. Yeah. It's really clear. And I think if I were to go back to high school and do things differently, then, well, number one, I probably wouldn't do things. I would stress a lot less about the grades that I'm getting. And I'd spend more time actually developing how to study and how to manage my time and manage my stress, especially actually. Yeah, I'd think about managing my stress a lot more. I'd be way more proactive with it. I'd socialize a lot more. I'd try to have more fun. And I'd just really try to learn more of that non-academic skills. You know, I spend so much time stressing about grades and trying to get the right grade. I should be thinking more about how to improve my academic skill rather than the academic outcome, and then spend all the extra time on just having fun, and increasing like social skill and you know, things that actually matter, rather than, you know, trying to memorize the rubric to get an excellence. You know, and another thing is that I think there's a sense of false confidence that doing well in high school can impart when you're trying to do well in like first year of pre-med.
Really interesting you mentioned that, actually, because my friend was telling me, I think like last week or so, like who you are in high school and the grades that you get in high school are by no means reflective of the person you're going to be like in uni. And we were talking about how people have changed so much from what they were like in high school, better or worse, on whatever standard we base that on or whatever. But it's a very different.
There's no field. Real.
No.
I mean, there's a correlation in that if you kind of it doesn't tell you anything about the person's personality, right? Like if you get someone that's just not achieving, then it doesn't really tell you about their personality. It more so tells you about how relevant they found school. Yeah. And they may have just been really disenchanted with school. And I know a lot of people that have barely graduated high school or just like dropped out, who are like really quite individually successful in their own way now. Right. They're doing their own thing, and they just didn't like the school system. And thinking back on it now, I reckon I'll be like one of the people that are like barely graduating, probably because like I'm just so disenchanted with the school system. Yeah. But the other thing is that, you know, you could get excellences or you could get your A star or whatever it is in high school, and it doesn't really even reflect academically because the difference in difficulty is so much higher. Like I normally say to people, you know, to get a A+ at uni is usually about as difficult as it is to get like an outstanding scholarship. Because especially like pre-med, where even to just be eligible you have to be in like the top sort of 20% worth of achievement
Right.
of the nation, and of there, only 10% of people are actually getting into med school.
From that 20%.
Yeah. So you're really looking at like, okay, if you've got, I don't know, like 500 people in your year, pick the top 5 or 6 students. Like they're the ones that are getting in. And then it's like, well, actually, it's not even because you're picking the top. Okay, pick the top 20 highest achievers in your year group. One of those will get in. Like that's the percentage. Like 1 or 2 of them will get in. So it's like sets a false expectation, because if you think you got like excellence or A star, it's like that's the best you could get. But actually, it doesn't. That will be like an A- level at uni, right?
Yeah, but yeah, only a very, very few will actually make it. And like with what you were saying with how it's not truly reflective academically as well, does it still go back to how the threshold or like the standard isn't as high in high school, which means that even with bad study habits or study skills or methods,
it just goes under the radar.
Right, but if you've got just sheer like work ethic, as in like just sheer hard work with poor study habits and techniques, you can still get that grade.
You can, yeah. In fact, actually, that's the main limitation, right? Is that most people just don't try. Most people don't try as hard because they know that if they try harder, they can do it.
Right.
And that's the thing, is that there's no need to get better at it because...
Because if you just try harder, then you'll get it anyway.
Yeah.
But it will show when the mark is a lot higher at university, where you do need proper study habits and you need consistent revision and stuff.
And everyone is everyone that's worth a damn is working hard.
Right.
And they're doing their best. And it's like, when everyone is working hard, what is the difference they're being made? And it's like, well, look, if you can study 30% more efficiently than someone else,
right?
I mean, that's massive.
Yeah.
30% more efficiency in high school matters for nothing, because everyone is working at 10% of how hard they could be working, right?
Yeah. Because they don't need to work.
Because they don't need to. And so it's easy to like double your effort. Whereas it's not possible most of the time after the high school.
Right. I will say though that like I feel like those students that really do take studying in their own hands, even in high school, they take their scholarship papers and their extracurriculars and everything like that they do. I think that would be that would be a close reflection of what they'll be like in high school. So.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
To a certain extent.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I like, for example, I mean, I was, like I did 5 scholarships in high school. I did various extracurricular stuff. Like I was involved in a lot of things. However, I wouldn't say that I had the right mentality. Like I was still just like, I'm going to work harder.
Yeah.
And that ultimately, crumbled for me, and it was super unsustainable. Right. So, I mean, we'll talk about my first year story another day, because it's just a horrible sort of event. But, that I think it's a fundamentally different perspective to have. Yeah. So, okay, well, that was a really long elaboration on just the single biggest mistake that people are making, is that they're not being prepared. But what we are really saying is that people aren't investing enough time in stress management, time management, learning to study more effectively, and they're just too focused on like a superficial outcome and things. And actually, honestly, parents make this worse. Parents make this worse because parents don't know. Well, they do know, but they like parents, adults know, but
do they though?
Adults that have been through like rigorous academia should know, or like that are like professionals should know. But for some reason, they're just still obsessed with the grade. And I don't know why that is. I don't know where that really comes from, but it just doesn't make any sense.
Right. I do understand culturally though. I'm Indian.
Yeah.
You're Korean as well.
Culturally, there's a lot of precedent for
stigma.
outcome focused and everything. But I mean, it's just so harmful to the student. And trying to communicate that to the parent and being like, look, the grade really doesn't, it's secondary. It's a symptom of something else. And the symptom is the thing that's actually more important.
Right. That's what we need to treat.
Yeah. Okay. So let's move on a little bit. Let's talk about, specifically for University of Auckland, at least, there's another big mistake that people are making that's not related to just preparing in high school. It is underestimating the first few weeks.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And that's just because, number one, the jump is massive. It's like unfairly huge. Like if you think about, if you were the university designing the system, I will feel terrible designing a system that is that unfair, where you're taking these students, you're not priming them in any way about how difficult it's going to be. In fact, you're underselling it, probably because you know that's going to milk you more money, realistically. you're underselling the difficulty of it, and then you're throwing all these students into it, and then within the first month and a half, 80% of them are just getting culled out. And then the students that took more than 3 weeks to adjust are just like have had the whole year pretty much cut. And then they've paid their whole year's worth of fees.
Yeah.
So,
well, I guess it's free right now for this year. But I mean,
on the student loan, on a loan,
Oh,
like,
sure.
you know, they're still getting, so the university is still making money off of it.
Right.
I mean, I personally feel like that's part of the reason why they really don't publicize how, like, the reality of it, you know? Like, it's weird that as an external organization, like, when I go and speak to students and do seminars, that it's the first time they've heard of the reality. Like, that's kind of weird to think about, that the university is not making that clear, that the first few weeks could literally decide your entire year's outcome. And I would say that's another big mistake that students are making coming into the year.
Like you said already, I guess it does aid to the whole, like, almost natural selection process, where, like, those that are the most prepared will actually break through past that first,
Yeah, but it's not natural selection, because it's like, what is it, because you're not intelligent enough? Like, literally, you can have intelligent students that are hardworking, and if there's no need to increase study efficiency, like, why would they have? It doesn't mean that they couldn't. Like, maybe in 3 months they will have adapted. I mean, how does that affect how good of a doctor they're going to be? There's no...
And that's the whole thing with this. That's, I guess, part of the problem with, like, first year entrance into med directly. Yeah. As opposed to almost every other
almost every other
country,
medical school in the whole world,
right,
which is postgraduate only. Yeah. Yeah, which is the way that it really should be. Yeah. And we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Another time.
That's a whole topic altogether.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in to Subcut. If you guys have any suggestions for content, please make sure you send it through.
You can get in touch and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, or find us on our website at jttmed.com/subcut.
Subcut is a podcast brought to you by JTT. If you or anyone you know is interested in a career in medicine, make sure to get in touch and check us out at jttmed.com.